Yo, what's going on, guys? Reversal here, and today we're doing a Genesis format Jurrac Dinosaur deck profile. I've been doing a lot of deck building and theory stuff for this format the past few days, trying to see which direction dinosaurs should go with in this format. And this one's going to be more of like a pure Jurrac version of the deck. I think it's the cleanest that you can play in terms of you can just play 40 cards, try to cut down on the bricks as much as you can, and have a lot of space for non-engine. I think the Pop the Baby Archosaur stuff is also a viable option if you want to do that as well. If you want to see a profile for that, definitely let me know in the comments and I can do that for you guys too. But I think the Archosaur stuff is a little more awkward in this format since getting a non-dinosaur engrave is a little harder without the links and without the extra monster zone in general. The board space is an issue a lot of the times. If you're just doing the regular evol stuff, it's fine, but I think in this format, you really want to be on the Jurrac stuff to some degree, no matter what build you're playing, just because of how many breakers there are in the format, since they're like the better cards that are not point costed. But yeah, I think just some version of Jurracs is probably the way you want to go for sure. But I do think like blind second could also be an option as well, if you sort that non-dino issue out. But with all that being said, before I get into the video, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, definitely do that now. Drop a like, comment, turn on notifications, all that good stuff. It all helps me out a lot. And if you're interested in this dinosaur playmat or these sleeves, check out finalsaga.de. And if you decide to buy anything, use my code VERSAL5 for 5% off your order. I'll leave a link in the description. So for this list, I went with 40 cards, try to keep it as compact as possible for consistency. I'll start off with the Jurrac stuff. We have 3 Stego, as usual. It's the 1-card combo of the deck. Then to go with that, 3 Megalo and 2 Aeolo. This is standard for like the typical Jurrac builds that you see in like TCG. I think in this it's the same thing. When you're playing the hybrid versions, like I mentioned with the board space can be an issue. This type of combo doesn't really work when you are introducing the Stego like mid Dino combo when it comes to the Pop the Baby stuff. So you really have to play Titano in that version to be able to set that stuff up. Otherwise, you don't have the board space. But in this, it's just sticking to the simple Jurrac plan that we're all used to by now. And I think this way is just works out just as well. And like I said, you really want to be trying to play around the common breakers as much as possible, and the Jurrac cards let you do that above all else. Then we got 3 Volcano and 1 Impact. I don't love Volcano at 3, to be honest, but I just wanted a consistency card still. I would probably play it at 2 if there was something else to play, but I think a 3rd Volcano is probably just the best thing. But yeah, it's like not that great, but it's okay. It's still a starter at the end of the day, most of the time. And the Impact, I think, is important just for help layering your board even more. But that's it for the Jurrac stuff. It's just a typical lineup for the most part. For the rest of the Dino stuff, we have 3 Ovies. I think this is pretty normal in like any Jurrac list that isn't like the Ryugi version. 1 Misk, unfortunately. This is 75 points, so it's taking up a lot of your 100-point cost. I think making this card 75 was a little bit ridiculous. I think if they wanted us to only be able to play 1, which I think is perfectly reasonable, by the way, like I think that's fine, but they could have made it like 51 points, so we still couldn't play 2 if we wanted to, but at least we'd have some points to play around with to fill up the rest of the deck, which would help a lot. But for now, it's 75. Hopefully they adjust it. It's really unfortunate that you can't play a single Fossil Dig if you wanted to while playing Misk, but I mean, it is what it is. I don't think you can play dinosaurs without Misk. Like, you technically can, but I feel like you're trolling if you're doing that, to be honest. Then I got 2 UCT. Typically, you only see 1 in this version of the deck, but I think since this format can be a little bit slower and grindier, I think you want the second one. And since I'm playing Small World, this card works as a really good bridge between just any of the Dino cards to get to like your Misk or your Stego, whatever one you need. I think it's important to have like a random dinosaur that can kind of get you in between all of them, and UCT works just as good as any of them. And since having a second one available to you can be fine in general, I think it just works well as a bridge too. Then the last ones are 1 Xenometeorus and 2 Ground Xenos. Again, this is just another like consistency package. This can mainly help you if you get interrupted, which you don't get hand trapped as much in this format with like the typical stuff on your normal summon, but if you do, you have this as an option to get into your Estero that way. And if you have like OV Ground Xeno, you can add Megalo, then use this to add Meteorus, pop the Megalo to set up your first Estero, and then you can make another Estero with these two and then set the Meteor or the Impact to get you another nuke. So you have a few nukes that way. And then it's just worst case scenario, if all you have is this, it can add you a Megalo, pop the Megalo, and set up an Estero Engrave. So it's never really a brick. It's not great going second, but you just needed a little more engine, I think. Because like pure Jurrac in general can be a little inconsistent at times. And since you don't get to play Fossil Dig, that's highlighted even more. But what I decided to replace the Fossil Digs with is 3 copies of Small World. So this is pretty much like your Fossil Dig at home. You're going to be getting Stego or Misk with this pretty much in a majority of your hands. The way it's kind of set up with the engine and the non-engine, you can kind of get to what you need with this. And if you happen to be just have a bunch of engine in your hand with this, you can use it to add a hand trap sometimes. You can use it to act as a going second card if you have just extra stuff that you can pitch to help search you into like a Pank or a Doggerin, which is pretty cool. But I think this is probably the best consistency card for the deck. As bad as going -1 to do a search feels sometimes, there's really nothing else you can do in terms of just having a card that can get you to your 1-card combo or to your protection with Misk. And then there's a few different things that you can do, but you have to play like extra bricks with that. Like Warzone, for example, even though pendulums aren't allowed, you can still like play the Warzone package. But in this deck, you don't really benefit much off like a Litho, and the Sea Serpent's always going to be a brick, so I don't think it really works as good in this. I think if you're playing like a high baby count, you can get away with running that package, but in this deck, I don't think it makes sense. But Small World's pretty good. It's Fossil Dig, but you have to go -1, pretty much. It's usually going to be live to get you into what you need, though, when you draw it, the way the deck's kind of set up. So for the non-engine, I'll start off with the stuff that costs points. I'll bring the Misk back out just to kind of show it again. So we got 1 Pank. This card is 10 points. And then I'm playing 3 Drolls. These are 5 points each. So you have 15 between the 3 Drolls, 10 with the Pank. That's 25 to go with your 75, which is with the Misk, to equal 100. So this is all your points right here. I felt like Droll was probably the best like hand trap in the format. If you're just going to run like 1 hand trap that's going to take up 15 points, for example. I feel like this one was the highest impact with giving you that extra space as opposed to running like 2 Fualos, for example. And this worked well with Small World, which I think is important as well when just building a deck with this card in mind. And that's a reason why Pank is here as well. I don't think Pank as like a card is necessarily worth the 10 points, but I think in this deck, considering it's searchable by OV, it's searchable by Small World, and it lets you get your Droll into your Dinosaur cards between using Pank, because these two, the only thing they share is that they have 0 defense, and then your Pank can get you into your Misk, since the only thing they share is Dinosaur, can get you into your Stego, so that's like can get you into your 1-card combo, since again all they share is Dinosaur. If you need any other dinos, you can get into those as well with this. Like it's really flexible in terms of the Small World, which is really nice. And then if you have just a random Dinosaur card left over in your hand, like say you have an extra Stego in your hand, you can actually use the Small World to bridge into the Droll, so you can just add yourself a Droll when you're going first to back up your board, which can come up sometimes. Usually you're gonna probably, if you already have a Stego, you're probably gonna use that extra one to get into your Misk, so you have protection from everything. But there can be times where you do want to end up searching out the Droll, which can be nice. But I think these are good, especially in a format where I think back row is a little more prevalent than like the TCG. I think having a card like Pank can be pretty valuable there. So something I was considering is, instead of playing this, is playing 1 Fua and then like a Dark Hole. since Fua can also kind of work as a bridge. If you have like the Droll, you can bridge Fua into your Dino cards. But if you start with Fua, it doesn't really work well to bridge into your stuff. So that was something that was a little annoying. But that's enough about those. I'll leave those up there. For the rest of the non-engine, went with 2 Doggerin. Since it's searchable in this deck, there's a lot of decks running like towers in this format, so I think having 2 of these is good. And again, it's like with Small World, it works well. Then 3 Dark Rulers. This card costs 0 points and can just shut off an entire board, which is nice. 3 Cosmic Cyclone. I think this card has a lot of versatility in this format. I think there's a lot of decks setting back row. There's a lot of decks playing field spells. So I think this card just works really well. Whether you go first or second, you can get some value out of it, which I think is nice. I think main decking it is perfectly fine. It's not the highest impact card when you go second, but it is always going to do something for the most part, which I think is nice. And then the last card, which this is something that definitely could change. I'm not completely sold on this package, and that is the Rescue Waste package of 3 Impulse and 1 Fire Attacker. These can help you when you go second, just for consistency's sake, to just help dig through your deck to get one of your blowout cards like Dark Ruler or a Kaiju, whatever. Or it can just get you into your engine if you don't have engine, for example, or if it can help you get to Misk more importantly, because getting to Misk is kind of what's going to win you a lot of games going second, just because it's very hard to interact with. But these cards also work with Small World. They don't work as well as some of the other stuff, but if you draw these going first, you don't really need to keep them around. So you can Small World. If you draw the Impulse, you can bridge through Fire Attacker to get to your Misk or Stego, and same thing vice versa. If you draw the Fire Attacker, you can bridge through the Impulse, and that works out just fine. But yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna keep these in. I'm not sure if they're that good or not, but I think that they work pretty well, just for consistency's sake. And then if I were to take these out, maybe it'd be for like 3 Crows and like a Skullmeister, since those cards would work well with Small World as well, since Crow can get to your Dino stuff through Skullmeister because it's a level 4 and it bridges with Crow since it's a dark. So it's just something to consider. Or it could be like another board breaker, but then your Small World math gets a little worse because you have less monsters. But I think either way you have enough targets, but these are just like kind of what I'm thinking at the time. I think these are like pretty good in the format altogether. So that's it for the main deck. For the extra deck, got 3 Meteors, 3 Asteros, 1 Velfido, 1 BBC. This is the typical Jurrac stuff. Then you got 1 Chengying, because this can come up with, if you bring this back, or the Meteorus, that's a level 6 tuner, then you can make this with your Ovi. That can be nice to have. Some more rank 4s. We got Dulka, Lagia, Giga Cannon. The Giga Cannon is really important. For a few different reasons. It helps you with an OTK, with just Stego. When you're under Misk specifically, it's really easy to do. And then, since Dugaras cost 10 points, I decided not to play that. So when you get back to your turn 3, sometimes if you just leave an Aolo on the field, and you can get back into your Stego that way, normal summon the Ovi, now you get your Conductor, and you have 2 level 4s and a UCT. The Stego and the Ovi is 3,500 plus UCT is another 3,500, so that's 7,000 points of damage right there. And then you can just overlay into the Giga Cannon, and that's going to get you that last 1,000 on your opponent's turn, which is nice. And the last 3 are just Slayer targets, because that card's free and it's in the side. So for XCs, you either have Aggregator or Valen. I'm not sure which one of these is better in this format, because I'm not sure like which XCs decks are popular per se. So I don't think you need to play both of these because there's no space, but you would play one of these, and then you'll play Malong if you want an extra Synchro target, and then Garura for a fusion target. I don't know, I feel like Synchros are maybe more popular than XCs in this format, but I haven't really played it a ton, so I'm not entirely sure. But this is just kind of like a baseline, and just pick the Aggregator or the Valon, whatever, you know, the XCs decks are kind of doing, pick which ones would be better in those situations. I think the Valen would be maybe better, just because back row can be more annoying, but The aggregator is probably better into like the monster heavy boards, obviously. But that's just something, you just gotta pick one of them and then it's fine. Like, it's not a big deal. But that's it for the extra deck. For the side deck, this could obviously change, but just first impressions. Third Kaiju, since there's a lot of tower stuff going around from what I've seen, like Super Quants, Lunalite, some Pearly. 3 DD Crow. This is like probably the best free hand trap, I think. And then another one that's free is 2 Skullmeisters. I don't think this one's as good as Crow, but it's still like fine. And like I said, if you put the Crow in, you can search your dino stuff with the Skullmeister, which is cool. But yeah, so that's that. 3 Slayers. It's another free card. It's just really good when you go second. And then for some going first cards, I went with 3 Torrential and then 3 Iron Thunder, which I'm waiting for these in the mail at the moment. It's been taking a while, so I decided to just proxy them. But I think Torrential's funny in this deck since you're already blowing stuff up a lot anyway. And this can just be nice. I wanted some traps that can be good if you don't like get to fully combo. And Torrential can be a nice board wipe, whether you just bricked or whatever, or if all you have is a Megalo, for example, you could just like set the Megalo and then Torrential them, and then this will get you another wipe, so that's like pretty good. Same thing with Iron Thunder. This card negates a card in the field, and then it destroys everything in the column. So like you could put a Megalo in the column, so when you're negating something with this is getting destroyed, and that's going to set you up a nuke. So that can be pretty good, but the Iron Thunder is just really good as a like Solemn-esque card for free. Another thing with a Torrential, if you do happen to set up like your full board, you can use the Volcano to protect your stuff from the first Torrential, and then you'll have like your impact that can set everything from the field, or send everything from the field whenever you want, and then that'll set up your other 3 nukes in the grave, so you can pretty much nuke every play that they possibly could do, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I think you have like a lot of cards that you probably don't want to keep in when you go first, like the Doggerins, the Dark Rulers, the Rescue Ace package. So there's quite a few cards here. You probably can keep the Cosmics in against a lot of decks. So right here, though, you have 4, 7, 9. So you can bring in like the 6 traps and then like the DD Crows and a Skullmeister or something like that. But that's just like an example. But I think you do have quite a few cards that aren't like the best to have in going first. So I think you want to have like a decent amount of cards that you can bring in if you need to. Another card to consider is like Twin Twisters, because there's like a lot more back row stuff in this format, I think. So the discard can be annoying, but this is probably like the next best back row removal card. But like I said, with all this stuff, I'm not like super in tune with all the tech stuff for this format. So if there's like better cards it could be playing, definitely let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions. But this is probably how I would go about playing like pure Jurrac in this format. I think it's definitely a pretty good deck. It just, sometimes the consistency can be not as good as you want it to be, but I think it's like serviceable enough to get the job done. But yeah, it's gonna be it for this one. If you're not familiar with how the combos work for pure Jurrac, I'll leave a link in the description to a combo video that I showed. That one was kind of just showing off all the combos with this guy, and how some of the other cards weren't really needed anymore. But if you look at those combos, just imagine that there's a Volcano and impact set to go with them, and then you'll kind of see how everything works that way. These are just kind of free additions to the board. But yeah, it's gonna be it for this one. Hope you enjoyed, and if you'll give it a try, let me know how it goes. Thanks for watching. Take care. Peace.